Welcome to the Carrington College Professional Resume Workshop. We have a lot of items that we're going to go over today. And the first thing we're going to talk about is what is the purpose of a resume and why do we need a resume and cover letter? We'll also go over how to organize these documents as well as some common successes and failures in putting them together. And how have a resume and cover letter evolved over the years, especially with technology, and then really ensuring that we double and triple check everything before we're applying for a position. So, a resume is your document that's going to be used to present your professional background, your skills, education, and accomplishments to a potential employer. It's really that first impression that they have of you when receiving your resume. It may be accompanied with an application, or you may just be emailing your resume and cover letter directly to that employer. So, it's really going to be that tool that is used for you to market yourself in hopes that you do secure an interview. Now, your resume really should only be 1 to 2 pages in length. If you are a student or graduate that has little to no work experience, a 1 page resume would probably be just fine for you. If you're a student or a graduate that has many years of work experience, some of which could be related to the field that you just finished or are currently attending your program in, a 2 page resume may be good for you. That checking in with your career services advisor, and they can look over the resume, suggest some formatting suggestions or tips, but definitely 1 to 2 pages is usually what we're seeing is working for our students and graduates. We'll also go over the fact that your resume should be sent along with a cover letter to those prospective employers. That cover letter really is going to highlight your skills and accomplishments. It also allows you the opportunity to discuss how your skills and qualifications relate to those that they have in the job description. So every single time you're submitting that resume, your cover letter should be going along with the resume. Now, there's several pieces that make up the resume, and that first one is going to be your contact information. And on the next slide, we'll go over what the actual resume looks like. But again, with us contact information, you would include your address, your phone number, and email. This would also be that section that if you have any certifications related to your program, such as a CCMA or an LVN, this would be included up with your contact information. Our next category would be our professional summary. We'll then move on to our education history, your skills and proficiencies, your work history or professional experience. If you don't have any work experience, this could be your volunteer experience. And then finally, we have an awards and recognition heading. And this section really would be for those that have achieved some sort of Employee of the Month or some sort of award. This is really an optional section on the resume, so it doesn't necessarily have to be included. So here we have John Smith's resume. And as you can see, the font is large. There's no color or graphics on the resume, so it's really easy to read. His contact information is just including the city and state of where he lives. We don't need to include our full address of our street that we live on. It's just really letting the employer know that we're a local candidate if that's something that's required. Your phone number. The phone number is really important, not only for the employer to try to contact you to schedule an interview, but they really need to make sure that you have a professional voicemail set up. So some of us with cell phones may not have set up our voicemail yet. So it's really important that that voicemail is not only set up, but that there is a professional greeting on there. If the employer tries to contact you by phone to schedule an interview and either your voicemail is not set up or your mailbox is full and they cannot leave a message, they're more than likely going to move on to the next candidate. They're not going to circle back and try to schedule another interview with you. So really important that not only we have our voicemail set up, but that the mailbox isn't full and that we have a professional greeting on that voicemail. Our email address. We need to have a professional email address. So this, even if you are using an email address for social media or an email that you have had for years, it might be beneficial to create just a professional email that you're using for your job search purposes. And this could be an email that just has your first initial, last name, for example, at gmail.com. So John's could be jsmith@gmail.com. We would like to make sure also that when you're submitting your resume or your application to an employer, that you're also checking your spam and junk folders. Employers may be trying to schedule an interview with you through email. So checking that email daily and making sure that you're not forgetting about your junk or your spam folder, as sometimes those emails may go into those folders. Your next section here would be your professional summary, which is also known as an objective. And essentially, this section is going to be where you list 1 to 2 sentences of not only your skills and qualifications, but also your goals and possibly even the position that you're interested in. So as you can see, John Smith's is fairly short, just a 1-sentence statement. Your next category is going to be your education. So if you are a current student or graduate from Carrington College, that college education will be listed up towards the top. We also want to make sure that you include the dates that you attended. So if you're a current student, include the dates that you're attending. If you are a graduate, you can say graduation date and let them know what that date is so that they know you finished the program. It's also important to include what program you completed or are attending at Carrington College. This will let the employer know that you have the education that is related to the field of study you're looking to get a position in. Since you are a current Carrington College student or graduate, we do not need to include our high school education on our resume any longer. And if you do have any prior college experience before coming to Carrington College, you can include that as well below the Carrington College education. The next section that we put on our resume is our skills section. And our resume is a living document, so it's something that we should be updating as we move through not only our terms in class, but also after we graduate and if we move through different positions. So it really makes it a lot easier that as you're moving through each term, you add the skills to the resume that you learned during that class. There's also transferable skills. So some of you who may have worked in customer service, we would definitely want to include that customer service as a skill on our resume. This essentially just lets the employer know that you know how to act professional, you know how to provide a great experience for the customer. And again, that transfers over into any environment. Your professional experience category. Now, if you don't have any prior work experience or current work experience, this would be a spot if you do have volunteer experience. But for those that do have paid work experience, we would want to include not only your employer name, but your job title, as well as the city and state of where you held that position and your dates of employment. Now, your dates of employment should be listed in month and year format. So, for example, John has been working as fire protection specialist. He started May of 2015, and he is still in that position. You're always going to start with your most recent or current work experience first, and then you'll move backwards. And as you can see for his job duties, we want to try to avoid listing these duties in paragraph format. Typically, employers are going to spend no more than 30 seconds to 1 minute looking over your resume. So if they're having to try to look over and they have a paragraph to read on the resume, they're more than likely just going to skip over that. So really that could be hindering you from getting a call for an interview if they're not seeing some of those important skills. So really just having short bullet points of the duties that you've performed will make it really easy for that employer to identify that you have the skills and qualifications. Now, down below the professional experience, John does not have his awards or recognitions. But if you've been an employee of the month or you've achieved military awards, this would definitely be a section that you would want to include on your resume. Now, resumes have evolved over the years, but there's still the time where you're going to need to hand in a paper resume. So typically we see smaller offices may require you to apply in person. So bringing a paper copy of your resume would definitely be relevant. It's also important as you are putting together this resume in either Microsoft Word or saving as a PDF, that you print a copy of that resume just to see how it looks on paper. We all know that when you're looking at a document on the computer screen, it doesn't always print the same way. So it's really important that as we're submitting this resume to employers, that it's coming across to them in the manner that we want it to. So really making sure that you print out that copy first. When you get called for an interview, it's a good rule of thumb to bring at least 5 copies of your resume along with you to that interview. You never know when that employer may have forgot to print your resume or maybe even has decided to have you interview with a few different individuals while you're there for your interview. You want to make sure that you have enough copies to hand out to each of them. Um, Really important that you have nice resume quality paper, which that can be obtained anywhere like an Office Depot or a Target or even through Amazon. As we move into more of the digital field, we do have sites such as LinkedIn, Indeed, and Career Builder, where you can actually create your resume digitally. This also allows for potential employers to access it, and they may even be able to contact you through your profile that you've created. Creating your profile on some of these sites could be a great way to network. It's also a great way for you to start getting to know maybe some different positions that the employer may have. So if you've created a LinkedIn profile and you start following a company that you're interested in, they typically will post their openings through their LinkedIn account and those would come across your feed. So it might bring about different positions that you didn't know existed. It's also a great way for you to connect with prior Carrington College graduates as they may be working in a field or at the employer that you might be interested in. Job posting sites do have security features, so you can set your profile to be private or searchable by employers. So just ensure that if you're going to click it as searchable, that you make sure your profile is complete before doing that. There are a variety of different resume styles and resources. Your career services advisor is going to be a great resource for you in getting you those sample resumes. Now, even if you have a resume that you've been using for years, or if you've never had to put together a resume, you can always submit that resume once you have a draft over to your advisor. They can take a look at it and let you know if there's any tips or adjustments that need to happen. It's also a great way to have another set of eyes taking a look at it before you do start applying for positions. There are also sites that you can use in addition to your career services advisor that allow you to build that resume. So those could be through Indeed.com, Career Builder, and JobScan.co. A great thing about JobScan.co is that it allows you to copy and paste skills and qualifications from your resume and then paste job duties and qualifications from a job description that you're interested in applying for. And essentially, it's scanning those to let you know the chances that you may have of your information being seen by the employer. So great way to kind of adjust that resume if you're not getting a percentage from that scan that might be beneficial. We can always add more qualifications. You can work with your career services advisor for buzzwords and things that we can add to that resume. You can use a Microsoft Word template in putting together the resume. I would advise sometimes that these templates don't allow you to log back in multiple times to make adjustments. So just keeping in mind that it might be easier just to open a blank Word document and start typing your information on there. Functional resumes do work really well for career changers because it does highlight those transferable skills such as customer service that we've talked about. Now you can see there's a couple of different resume samples here. John and Jane's resumes are fairly similar. They have their contact information up at the top with just their city and state, their phone number, and their email address. They have their objective or professional summary. Very simple to read. And you'll see on Jane's resume, she has a category that she's referred to as references and then indicated upon request. And this is not a section on the resume that needs to be included. When you're going to an interview, an employer will typically ask you for your reference sheet, and that's something that you can supply them at that time, or even as you move through the hiring process, they may ask you to provide your references. So it's not something that we do need to include on our resume. Now, the cover letter is really an important piece when applying for a position. It is that single page letter that's going to introduce you to the organization. It also highlights your skills and qualifications and how you feel they relate to the job. And while it can be a little bit time consuming, these cover letters should be tailored for every single position that you're applying to and should really be grammatically correct. So as you're putting together this cover letter, this would also be an item that you should submit to your career services advisor for them to take a look at. Another thing to keep in mind that as you're putting together that cover letter, please use the same heading that you're using on top of your resume. So that would include your name, where you live, your phone number, and your email. So as these documents come across that employer's desk, they really look like your personal stationery. They look like a document that should be with the other one. It makes it easy for the employer to read or to find your phone number. It just really makes you stand out above other candidates. Now, these are a few copies of what sample cover letters may look like. They're typically no more than 1 page in length and usually about 3 paragraphs. So in that first paragraph, you're going to let them know the type of position that you're interested in, the site where you found the job or how you found the job. This really lets that employer know what sources of recruitment are working for them and what jobs are getting applicants applying for them. That second paragraph is really where you need to focus in on the job description and what qualifications and skills they're looking for. And you can really use this paragraph to relate your skills and qualifications for that job. And then that final paragraph really should be your closing statement if you're going to follow up with that employer, or what the next steps may be in that hiring process. Um, if you've never put together a cover letter, if you'd like to see a sample, this again would be something I would have you highly encourage you to reach out to your career services advisor to receive. Now, a few tips for editing and revising your resume. So always make sure that you're proofreading it before you're sending it out or posting it to a job board. You can use free programs like Grammarly, Pro Writing Aid, or Hemingway to help you review your writing. And sometimes you may just need to get up and walk away and then come back with a fresh set of eyes to look at it. Your career services advisor is also that resource for you if you would like them to take a look at your resume and cover letter. And then, as we mentioned a few slides ago, you can utilize technology to help review your resume, such as jobscan.co, and it will suggest keywords for you or phrases that can help improve your chances of being seen for those jobs. It is important to update your resume frequently to reflect changes such as new job positions that you may obtain, promotions. If you happen to move or change your phone number, this contact information should be updated on your resume before you're submitting it out. Also important that if you've created profiles not only on LinkedIn, but actual employer sites, that you're updating those resumes as well on your profile. Nowadays, most companies are using applicant tracking systems, and these systems really are used to phase out candidates that are not qualified for the position. So really making sure that we have those buzzwords in our resume that might be found in some of the job descriptions that we're applying to, that's going to be really important for us to have a better chance of getting our resume seen by these employers. Now you've reviewed the resume, you've had your career services advisor look at it, and all the proofreading and errors are no longer in the resume. Now you're ready to start submitting it out or to posting it to job boards. A few of the job boards that we have had students post to are Indeed.com, ZipRecruiter, and LinkedIn. You can upload your resume on all of these sites and apply for positions. And again, you can also apply through an actual company's website. Typically, you're going to find that career section usually down at the bottom of the web page, or it could be under the About Us section. They will allow you to create your profile. You can upload your resume and cover letter, and just making sure that you're updating those documents, as we mentioned on the prior slide, if any information changes. You may also be applying directly through email. So you're going to want to make sure that you email your resume and cover letter directly to that recruiter or hiring manager. Or if it's a smaller organization and they want you to apply in person, this again would be that time where we're printing out a copy of our resume to take with us. So really important that if you have any questions, if you want to receive those sample resume or cover letters, reach out to your career services advisor. They are here to assist you in the formatting. They can provide suggestions and tips. So really take advantage of that resource before you start in your job search. I want to thank you all for attending today. Thank you.